We're heading into week 3, and I have 4 schools that I'm placing underneath the microscope. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey's over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks free of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We'll wrap up today's episode with a look at 3 games that I'm looking forward to this upcoming week that are not our game of the week, but we kick it off with a 2-part, a double feature, a double header, and that is the 4 schools that I have underneath the microscope going into week 3 and really moving forward. This is kind of a week 3, 4, maybe even 5, because once you go underneath the microscope, one performance does not erase it. One performance doesn't change things to where it's okay, we ain't got to worry about them anymore. Depending on how strong the performance is. If it's just an absolute masterclass, if it's just Picasso on the field, then yeah, come on, you can move away from the microscope. But 9 times out of 10, that's not happening. So these are schools that I feel like we need to watch very closely over the next couple of weeks. I think I may do this often. I don't want to say every week. That puts a little bit more pressure on me because sometimes schools don't need to go underneath the microscope, right? Like a bad team that is being bad does not go underneath the microscope. They're just being what we thought they would. So I don't want to say every week, but let's just say don't be surprised if this comes back up at any point. At any point throughout the year, I may say this school is underneath the microscope, and here's why. Let's kick it off with the Pirates, because I'm putting Hampton University underneath the microscope first and foremost. This was an interesting one because they're going through their complete pre-CAA schedule, and that means they're playing all HBCUs. They've done this for the last 3 years, this making year number 3, and they played a lot of HBCUs since leaving the MEAC. To make sure they get, they incorporate that in their out-of-conference schedule to make sure they still get that during football season. Well, this year is looking a little bit funny. You lose to Morgan State in week 1. Okay. Then Jada Byers and company comes to town representing Virginia Union. You do get that victory, but it was a close one. In case you were curious, Jada Byers did do Jada Byers things, meaning he ran 21 times for 105 yards. I know it wasn't the absolute domination, but you have to understand, he's going from D2 to FCS. You're not supposed to. Him averaging 5 yards a pop is a really big deal. Jada Byers is a good running back. I think that this was a good showing for him. I think that Jada Byers going against Hampton and getting 105 yards on 21 carries, on 5 yards per carry, and making it to the end zone 2 times, this is kind of the equivalent of an FCS player going to a D1 FBS school and having a really good performance. This should do well for his draft stock. And I think that his size and what, there's things that people are going to talk about. But if you're talking about going up competition level, that partially answers it. You still got, still one more to go up to, but whatever. I really want to see Byers in a Senior Bowl because he did this against FCS competition. That doesn't shut it all the way up, but it does quiet it a little bit, I would think. But you still got another subdivision to go up to. All of that's available at the Senior Bowl. But this is not about Jada Byers. I just enjoy his game so much that I'll fall back and start talking about Byers as if he is the topic. But he is not. Hampton is the topic. And as I said, they've scheduled all HBCUs for the entirety of their out-of-conference schedule for what makes now 3 years. They went 2-1 last year. They lost to Norfolk. They went to 3-0 the year before. Then actually in 2021, in 2021, They didn't do all of their games, but they still had 3 matchups. And in that season, they went 2-1 and they lost to Norfolk State. Guess who they're playing this week? Hampton is playing Norfolk State. I want to watch this game. I want to see what happens because Hampton has had some HBCU superiority as of recent. They've been doing really well. And I think when you're out of the HBCU conference and you come in and you just play a couple of teams, right? Like Norfolk State hasn't been great the last couple of years, but they lost to Norfolk State last year, right? But Howard, they end up winning the MEAC. You knocked them off. Okay. And they knocked off Grambling last year. Like when you start doing this, I think it looks a little better because it's a smaller sample size, and 2-1 looks really good. 3-0 looks really good. It's like, okay, if we extrapolate this, then what's the conversation? Hampton ain't got that this year. They lose this game. They won't have a winning record for the first time in that 3-year time span that I'm talking about. And if they were to lose this game and then lose to Hampton the week after in the battle for the real HU, they would have a losing record against HBCUs for the first time since leaving the MEAC. That's never happened, right? And I think it allows them to talk a certain kind of way. But if you end up losing to a Hampton, you lose to a Norfolk State, you lose to a Morgan State, now you're 0-3 against the MEAC. You got to win both of these games to have a winning record against the MEAC. I got you underneath the microscope. Then you look at Alcorn, and I've done this already, but you scored 5 points. You scored 3 points in 2 weeks. And I understand you're facing UAB, you're facing Vanderbilt. I completely understand. But at the same time, this is pitiful. I give grace. I've given grace to the defense. Maybe they deserved it. Maybe they didn't. 41 points is bad. 55 points is bad. That's what they've given up over the first 2 weeks. They've almost given up 100 points, and they've scored 3. This is a get-right game. This is a perfect example of when you go underneath the microscope, even if you look good when we look through the lens, I got to watch a little bit longer because doing it against Edward Waters is not exactly the best test. It's not going to be the thing that says, oh, I can breathe now. That's not what I'm going to get if they look good. They better look good. Right hand to the man, I'm not lying. If I'm the head coach of Alcorn, I'm putting every single scoring opportunity on the board if I got it. I'm not easing up, I'm taking it easy. Hey, can we run it down to 10-minute quarters? No. My first team needs to put up points. I'm going to take them out, put the second team in. They need to put up points. If they're not putting up points, I'm putting the first team back in because we're not ending on a bad note. I need to score. And not because I want to get my averages here, not because I want to get my averages there. I think mentally, that's good for your team to see you put points on the board, to see you be offensively dominant. I think that's good for the psyche of the Braves. I'm not here to bully them. I'm not here to beat a point because I talked about this earlier in the week, so I think I can keep it slight on this. But you got to put up points. You're underneath the microscope, and you're not leaving after week 3. Week 4, week 5, I'm going to be watching you very closely because this is the school that is predicted to win the SWAC West. And if you're predicted to win the SWAC West, you're already underneath the microscope. I've given you grace for how defensively you haven't been able to stop these FBS schools. Offensively, I'm not asking you to be a juggernaut. I'm not asking you to score 25 points. Can we get to double digits? Offensively, you ran for over 100 yards against UAB, but in the passing attack, you haven't thrown for 100 yards total in these 2 games combined. We killed A&T for that. I got to keep the same energy. I think it was just a couple episodes ago I said keeping the same energy is overrated. Not here. You got to be fair. You got to be fair because at the end of the day, Alcorn has failed offensively. I'm watching to see if they can do better. I'm watching to see if they can have a quarterback not have to leave the game. I'm watching to see if they can put up 30 points. I need 30 plus on Edward Waters. Do. It's got to look good. It's got to look good out there. It can't just be points. I don't want the defense intercepting somebody and getting it to the 15 and now you're punching in. If you get a short field, I need a touchdown, not a field goal. Like, I know I don't need that all the time, but when you're under the microscope, you're required to do more. Now, as we push forward, we still got another couple of schools are underneath that microscope, and we're going to stick it in there. Whoa, wow, that was crazy. We got a couple of teams underneath the microscope, and we're going to move on to the MEAC. We're going to look at Howard and we're going to look at Morgan State. But Morgan State is the odd one out of the bunch because they're not under the microscope for the same reason. Let's break all of that down as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is the number one place for all of my small business hires, right? Let's say you're trying to get a job. 70% of people don't go anywhere else because they understand that this is where all of the best jobs are. And small business owners understand that 86% of the people in their position find the right hire for their job less than 24 hours into the search just by using LinkedIn. A lot of these businesses, they don't go to any other job board. For that same reason, these employees or potential employees do not go to another job board either. Be one of the either hires or the people to be hired, right? Go ahead and go to LinkedIn.com. If you're posting your job, go to LinkedIn.com/lockedon. Use the purple hashtag hiring frame. It's simple. You don't have to worry about too much. They're going to take care of everything for you, and the low risk is there. You post your job for free, find the right person within 24 hours, and take it home from there. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, right? I know I typically shout out Locked On Saints, all Locked On Louisiana. Y'all stay safe out there, my people. Ross, Matt, Jake. I don't know all of them personally. I only know Ross, but still, y'all stay safe nevertheless. And y'all stay safe for my Southern people. We'll be back with you tomorrow on the game of the week. Stay out there in Mississippi. I've been checking the tropical storm. I've been trying to check the pattern of it and whatnot. So I've been keeping up with it. But anyway, we'll get into that on tomorrow, and I'll send my well wishes, my prayers, and all of those things off camera and everything. But we had two teams that we had underneath the microscope, and I have one that I feel like I probably should have talked about a little bit more. This is an honorable mention. But I think Bethune-Cookman got to go on that list because I kind of feel bad about how I did Alcorn. I think this may need to turn into 5 because they were just an honorable mention because they're playing Ohio this week. And I don't expect Bethune-Cookman to do anything. Or excuse me, they're facing Western Michigan. I think Howard's facing Ohio this week. Or is Morgan State? Morgan State is facing Ohio this week. I knew they were coming up soon. But I'm not going too heavily on Bethune-Cookman because they're facing Western Michigan. And I have absolutely no expectations that they're going to do great against them. But I should put them underneath the microscope. So this is changing to 5. We're putting 5 teams underneath the microscope instead of 4 teams in an honorable mention because they've only scored, Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman has only scored 5 points this year. I'm killing Alcorn for 3. The 5th point, 4 and 5, that's a defensive, that's a safety. That's a defensive score. Okay. Or is that a return? Anyway, they only scored 2 points. And they played an FCS opponent. That's not an offensive score. That's the point. Your offense has scored the same amount of points. And you played an FBS opponent, an FCS opponent. So you played somebody who reasonably should be on your level. And you didn't take care of business. And you only scored either 3 or 2. I can't remember who they scored what against who, right? But that's unacceptable. That is. Bethune-Cookman should be better. I understand that you're not playing in conference and those things can change. But you're under the microscope. I'm not saying I'm giving up on you. But you are under the microscope because, quite frankly, scoring 5 points in a season through 2 weeks and one of your games is against an FCS opponent is unacceptable. It is. That's a similar, if not worse, situation in Alcorn because at least they're playing 2 FBS squads. I'm going to keep it there because I didn't have too much to say about them. I ain't got too much to say about them, but I don't think it's going to get better this week. But maybe if I do this again, Bethune-Cookman will be one of those squads that I put directly underneath the microscope. Now, I'm concerned about Howard. Howard has me a little bit concerned because against Rutgers, you struggled. Defense looked good to start, but you can't hold up that whole time. I allow that. That's cool. That is what it is. Shout out to Kenny Gallup because Kenny Gallup has looked absolutely amazing. When you look at what Kenny Gallup has been able to do this year, he has been exceptional. Whether it was coming off the edge against Rutgers, whether it was playing in the backfield against an FBS opponent, right? Like that was one of the things that stood out. But he single-handedly saved us from the sky falling. If Kenny Gallup doesn't return that blocked extra point, for a 2 points, right? Technically a touchdown, but like for 2 extra points. If he doesn't do that, the sky is falling at Howard. We realize that, right? If Kenny Gallup doesn't scoop up that blocked extra point and return it all the way to the end zone, I don't know if Howard beats Mercyhurst. And that's the reason we're underneath the microscope right now. Kenny Gallup's been phenomenal, did well against FBS competition, had the game-saving play against Mercyhurst. But why do you need a game-saving play against Mercyhurst? Maybe I'm undervaluing, maybe I'm being disrespectful. I don't think that any Mercyhurst people are going to be stumbling across this right now. Maybe they will, but I doubt it. But if they do, please correct me. But you're coming up from being a Division II team. You played 2 games as an FCS squad. I do not believe that a MEAC championship contender should be struggling right now. Not with that team. Maybe they're more prepared for the jump than most teams are, and they don't need the acclimation period. Maybe they don't need to ramp up, right? Like that very well could be the case. But until somebody proves to me that's the case, I'm questioning Howard, because you should not be struggling with a team who just got to the FCS like this. That's scary. That concerns me. That's the reason you're under the microscope. That's the reason I'm really looking. And you play Morehouse this week. It's a D2 team. I guess you could say it's a get right, but I don't think they're pitiful. I thought they looked good against Rutgers for a little bit, especially defensively. It's just so much you could do in that situation. But that game against Mercyhurst concerns me. And now I feel the need to watch a little bit closer. Now you go into Morgan State. With Morgan State, they're not here for the same reasons as anyone else. I'm not concerned, but I'm watching the fact that you had 2 completely different games that went 2 completely different ways. And I'm not just talking about win-loss, right? Like you won the first game against Hampton, but that was a high-scoring game. Then you lose a low-scoring affair to Towson. And the reason that you go underneath the microscope is because not the fact that you have to score 30 points every week, but Towson looks oddly familiar to last year's game against Towson. This game against Towson looks oddly familiar to what I saw from Morgan State all through the 2023 season. And that's a team that has clamped down defense, but not much offensive momentum. I don't think that you can move up without gaining offense. It's kind of like I said with Bama State. Bama State to me, if they don't get good quarterback play, they're just going to be in the same spot they were last year, which is a really good team. I don't know if I expressed this when I talked about it, but I think Bama State can be a really good team. But without that quarterback play, I don't know if they ascend to championship contenders. I didn't divide the SWAC into tiers, but that's the tier that I put Morgan State in the MEAC, where I think, hey, they just need that extra step. And I like Todd Smith. He still needs time. He's still raw. He hasn't even played a season's worth of games. But I'm watching. Can the offense step it up? All right, this week you play Ohio University. Can I get a couple of touchdowns? Last year they played Akron, an FBS opponent. They lost 21-24. Can I see the offense put up a couple of touchdowns? Can I see you look a little bit competent? Can I see some bright spots, things that I feel like I can build on? If I can do that, then I can walk in happy. I like Morgan State's defense a lot, but you need the offense to be able to complement it. Otherwise, you're just going to have a great defense and be a really good team, but not a championship squad. You're going to be that squad that you can never count out, the squad that you know they can upset you at any moment, but you also wonder if they're ready to take that next step. You need some good offense. Now, as you push forward, got some games to watch for a multitude of different reasons, and we're talking about quarterback play. Let's look at Norfolk State, because Jalen Daniels, I want to see in your last opportunity to earn that starting job against an FCS opponent now, how do you perform? Let's look at that as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor Meals. And Factor Meals is easy, right? It's the no stress, no prep. You only have 2 minutes to go ahead and warm this food up. And bada boom, bada bing, there you go. See, some people say, I'm too busy. I don't have enough time to eat healthy. Nah, not here, right? You have 30 plus meals. You have 60 plus add-ons. So it's not even, I'm feeling really repetitive. I feel like I'm eating the same thing every single day. That doesn't apply here either. You have a multitude of different options. You have a very short process, whether you want keto, healthy, you want a diet, you want protein plus, you want calorie deficient. You have all of those different options. All you have to do is go ahead and go to factormeals.com. It's simple. Go to factormeals.com. Use the code LOCKEDONCFB. Go ahead and get yourself a deal today by going to factormeals.com and using the code LOCKEDONCFB. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, and it's the NFL season. We have a game tonight. I think it's the Bills versus the Dolphins. That should be a good one. Put some money down. How you feeling about Josh Allen? Do you feel like he should have been on my fantasy team? Because I do. Do you feel stupid for not picking him? Because I do. But that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. You can still put some money down on him. You have the choice every single week to invest in Josh Allen. You should do that. You have the choice every single week to invest in Tyreek Hill. You should do that. You have the choice every single week to invest in whoever's going to be the Miami running back. Is it going to be Devon A-Chain? Is it going to be, or Raheem Mostert's already ruled out? This is Thursday night football, and you have the opportunity to put money on every single one. And right now with a $5 bet, all customers, new, existing, old, coming back, new, it doesn't matter. 3 weeks free NFL Sunday ticket if you put down a $5 bet. That's all you got to do. And you get 3 weeks free of the NFL Sunday ticket through YouTube or YouTube TV. As a person who uses this every single week, you're not going to want to miss it. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. I have a couple of extra games that I want you to watch. It's 3. Norfolk State versus Hampton, UAPB versus Tennessee State, and then also Howard versus Morehouse, right? So with Norfolk State versus Hampton, I'm not going to go in on Hampton too much because I just did. So I think we're going to primarily focus on Norfolk State and their quarterback play. So I'm looking at Jalen Daniels. This is his last opportunity to win that starting job. As you remember, Otto Kuhns is out for 4 games. He had a suspension, right? So Otto Kuhns is out for 4 games with a suspension. We think it was academic related, but this is game 4 now. You played in the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Then you have, so that's week 0, 1, 2, 3. So you don't go all the way to week 4. It's 4 games, not till week 4, right? So now he's coming back for that next week. Jalen Daniels has one more opportunity. That's the way I look at it. Jalen Daniels has one more opportunity to tell Coach Odoms, I should be the starting quarterback. Jalen Daniels has one more opportunity to say, going into the week 4 week of practice, let's make this a conversation. Let's split reps and let's say, hey, we're evaluating going into next week. He has one more chance to do that. He's played FAMU. I don't think he really got a chance to really showcase himself in that game. Then you play an FBS opponent. Wasn't great. Then you play a D2 opponent. Now you get another FCS opportunity. Otto Kuhns is out for 4 games. This is game number 4, which means Jalen Daniels has 1 game more to prove that he should be the starting quarterback. That's the biggest storyline going into this. He needs to protect the football. He can't be throwing interceptions like he has the last 2 weeks. He needs to try to build on his 2-touchdown performance versus Virginia State. But that's what I'm looking for going into Norfolk State versus Hampton. Of course, it's still the rivalry factor and everything of the sort. But Jalen Daniels, can you tell Coach Odoms why you should be the starting quarterback in 60 minutes? Now, as we push forward, you got to look at UAPB versus Tennessee State. This is the new look, the new age, the renovated Southern Heritage Classic. Still kind of weird to not have Jackson State in it, but this is the life that we live. No time to cry about it. Next year, we shouldn't be crying about the Orange Blossom Classic. And Rattler Nation, don't want to hear you rubbing in the face that it's not selling out. All right? I would love for you to be there. I think they would love for you to be there, but the show has to go on. If you don't want to be there, don't think you just taunt. I haven't heard Jackson say any. Let me not compare the fan bases. I love all of y'all. I love you guys. Okay? I don't want no problems. But yeah, Rattler Nation, let's let it go. Let's let it go. Let's not taunt them people anymore just because it's not doing as successful with you guys not there. I think we all knew that would happen. But UAPB versus Tennessee State, the New Age Southern Heritage Classic. It was close last year. Tennessee State jumped out to a quick 17-0 lead. Held it pretty much the whole game. Then you started seeing a rumbling back. UAPB with a body shot, with a hook, with a straight. Tennessee State start wobbling. They're applying pressure. And then right when they go to kick a field goal to tie the game with 53 seconds left on the clock, blocked, return for a touchdown, and that's how we get a 24-14 final. And 10 points looks a lot different than 3. But that was the first year for Alonzo Hampton as the head coach. Now he's going into year 2. I can't wait to see how this goes because I do believe that there's going to be some remaining feelings, right? Just some leftover feelings that have been sitting in the fridge for about a year, waiting to play Tennessee State again because you knew you were going to play them again. I think they've been waiting and feeling like, yeah, we should have won this game or at least pushed it in the OT. We'll see. Now my last one is Howard versus Morehouse. And no, I'm not going to regurgitate any points. The same way with Hampton, I'm moving on. This is about the fact that this is the battle of the two HBCUs. This is about the two HBCUs who exist to everybody outside of the HBCU sphere. And I say that with all jokes and absolutely no jealousy, but that's what it is. People know Morehouse and Howard, that's where all the money go, right? Just playing around, but this is two of the biggest brands, if not the biggest brands in HBCU academics. I think there's a few people who are fighting for that, but these are up there. Like just school-wise, just take out athletics and you're just talking about the university and the prestige that goes with this. There's not many combinations that are competing with this. Granted, Howard's going to be in one of those literally the next week. But still, right now, you're looking at the fact that they're in New York. And I don't know if athletically, if there's going to be a lot of recruiting going on successfully for Morehouse. I think you probably will for Howard if they want to. If I'm not mistaken, I think then they got a linebacker from there. Holland. I think Holland's from New York. Is he? I think so. I'm really like 63% sure. So I'm a little bit more than half, but not quite confident. But you're looking at New York, I'm looking for recruiting academically. What students can we pull in? And I think that that's a really good place for it. If you're trying to spread HBCU awareness, bring two of the biggest brands, bring all of the fanfare to a place that doesn't have the HBCU culture. I love it. I will always highlight this game. I think it's going on for 3 years, and I feel like I've highlighted it every single time. I will always highlight when these HBCUs go to foreign places. The one place that's not foreign is Jackson, Mississippi. They know all about the Boombox Classic and all about something. It's hate week. I will always be pro scheduling this as an out-of-conference game if you have to, because the environment is crazy and I wish that I could be there, but I can't. The best that I can do is make it the game of the week and give you 3 matchups, 2 storylines, and 1 key to victory. So tune in tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Go on this ride with me. Let's look at the Boombox Classic. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, at what time? 6:30 p.m. Central. Take care. Stay blessed. Peace.